All right, so I wanted to talk about that the new phenomenon, what they call the team takeover, right? Because I see people and I hear people talking about the teams like they ready to throw them away, and this is a history we have lived already. I'm not understanding how people don't see this as a pattern. But of course, this is what happens when you don't understand the structure of things, the patterns of power. It's the danger of not understanding racial capitalism and how it works. Because black people were captured and brought here to this country as capital. And racial capitalism did not die when chattel slavery ended. It only adapted. So the system was always going to find ways to capture the black body. This is something that we had to know. So when we were talking about team takeovers, and they show these black kids, and they try to make it seem like it's all black children, you gotta be mindful of the structure and what the system wants to do and how they want to perpetuate this stereotype and this image of black kids. Because we have been here before. This is a cycle repeated. Now, in case people don't remember, there was a time in the 90s where our leaders were attacking rap, street culture. They was attacking NWA and Tupac and Scarface for saying things about the black neighborhoods during the crack epidemic. And they made it like the victims of the crack epidemic were the perpetrators of the crack epidemic, right? So during this time, a man came along called Bill Clinton, right? His name was Bill Clinton. He wanted to be president. Him and Democrats like his wife Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, they wanted to pump this rhetoric called the super predator. And it's similar to the team takeover situation. So Bill Clinton got on TV. He played the saxophone on Arsenio Hall. He wooed black people. They fell for it because we love white boys with swag. And then when he got into office, he used black kids as political capital, the same way they're perpetrating through the media now, right? So you see Team Takeover, I see Super Predator because I'm behind bars. I've seen the cycle. I'm a part of that cycle. I am the result of what happens when you become political capital. So Bill Clinton and his squad pumped this idea like they were marketing for big business, but they were. He was lining us up for mass incarceration. Even Donald Trump back in the day backed this play. People forget that he took out a full-page article, I think it was in the New York Times, where he called for the death penalty for 5 black boys who were accused of raping a white woman, right? She did not die, but he made it his point to accentuate or highlight that the death penalty needs to be brought back for instances like this. Now, later on, these 5 black boys who were called the Central Park 5 were later exonerated. They didn't even commit the crime. But they were a product of that time when they were pumping the super predator hype. Or there was a phenomenon called wilding. Wilding came out in the newspapers as a phenomenon that was going to overrun white communities, and you had to be afraid because there was a bunch of rapacious and degenerate teenagers running around like it was death or something like that. But Bill Clinton got his way, and he used this rhetoric to pass a crime bill in '94. That crime bill is what made mass incarceration to date. It's militarization of police brutality, disproportionate sentences. Bill Clinton and Democrats made that. We are still suffering from that. And I am a part of the generation who fathered these children who are out there without fathers who are repeating the cycle. So when you see our kids committing violence, right, and you see them in these media portrayals, you should be able to identify what has already happened because we have lived this history. Now, back then, our elders didn't listen to us. But now we know listen is probably the greater part of loving, right? So understanding that our music, we felt it because they were articulating our struggle during the cocaine and crack epidemic, being with fatherless homes and poverty and all that. So we should take the time and have the mindset to understand or try to understand what the cycle has brought to the new generation and how they're suffering. That is the very definition of how hurt people hurt people. If you see violence, that means someone has been hurt. Instead of trying to lock them up, we should try to get to the bottom of why they're hurting and fix that problem, which, of course, mass incarceration is a part of that. But we can't act like that it's not a harm or a violence inflicted on our community. Taking resources, such as fathers and parents, from our communities will impact them in this way. And you will get this. If you think incarceration is the key, we'll live this cycle over and over again. It'll get worse and worse. And we'll all be looking at each other like, how did this happen again? But the pattern is there. The structure is there. This is racial capital.
Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.
We also have to have an organized effort against gangs. Just as in a previous generation we had an organized effort against the mob. We need to take these people on. They are often connected to big drug cartels. They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel. And the president has asked the FBI to launch a very concerted effort against gangs everywhere.
Some tense moments for former President Bill Clinton as he campaigned in Philadelphia for his wife.
President Clinton was confronted by protesters who appear to be from Black Lives Matter. They were upset about gun violence laws Clinton had passed when he was in office 20 years ago. But he fired back, getting into a heated exchange for nearly 15 minutes.
Wow.
I don't know how you would characterize the gang leaders who got 13-year-old kids hopped up on crack and sent them out onto the street to murder other African-American children. Maybe you thought they were good citizens. She didn't. She didn't. You are defending the people who kill the lives you say matter. Tell the truth.
Clinton's anti-crime bill led to mass incarcerations disproportionately affecting African Americans.